Tag, meine Damen und Herren, hier bei dem Tag der offenen Tür in der Stiftung am Brandenburger Tor, hier im Herzen Berlins, an einem warmen Sommernachmittag. Vielleicht mögen Sie auch alle, Sie sitzen alle in der letzten Reihe und erwarten noch die kommenden, vielleicht nähern Sie sich ruhig etwas, dann erzeugen wir noch eine Gesprächsatmosphäre und es soll eigentlich auch ein Gespräch sein. Hier, wo das Liebermann-Haus seine Pforten geöffnet hat heute, um Sie ein wenig mit der Arbeit vertraut zu machen. Sie waren jetzt schon in der Ausstellung wahrscheinlich und Sie haben die anderen Programmpunkte wahrgenommen und nehmen sie noch wahr. Und wir haben uns das einfach so überlegt, dass wir Ihnen einen Ausschnitt unserer Arbeit zeigen möchten, dessen, was uns tagtäglich beschäftigt oder viele hier in der Stiftung tagtäglich beschäftigt, mich selbst etwas weniger. Ich bin hier für Literatur zuständig. Mein Name ist Thomas Spahr und im Hauptberuf arbeite ich im Surkamp Verlag, etwas höher gelegen, dort in der Mitte. Vor allem freue ich mich, Ihnen Farah Abdi heute vorstellen zu können an diesem Nachmittag. Sie spricht schon Deutsch und versteht relativ viel. Wir werden aber gleichwohl das Gespräch auf Englisch führen. Und wenn Sie etwas nicht verstehen, dann fragen Sie mich, dann würde ich das auch übersetzen. Und es ist wirklich auch so gedacht, dass Sie in Lesung und Gespräch etwas über unsere Dichterin, die hier unser Gast ist, für 6 Monate erfahren sollen. Aber Sie sollen auch mit ihr ins Gespräch kommen und ich bin auch gern bereit, das zu übersetzen, meine Damen und Herren. Das Torschreiberinnen-Stipendium ist etwas, was wir uns vor einigen Jahren überlegt haben. Ich glaube, genau genommen vor 6 oder 5 Jahren, noch stark unter dem Eindruck der Flüchtlingswelle vom Jahre 2015. Und wir haben uns überlegt, dass Berlin immer ein Ort des Transits war, ein Ort der Ankunft für länger, für immer, manchmal aber auch eben auch ein Ort des Abschieds, von dem man ins Exil gehen musste mit der großen Zäsur 1933 und den darauf folgenden Jahren. Und es ist klar, dass das Max-Liebermann-Haus an das Schicksal von Max und Martha Liebermann erinnern möchte, aber eben auch an das Schicksal der jüdischen Berlinerinnen und Berliner eben jener Zeit und auch der Autorinnen und Autoren. Und unser Vorstand Peter Klaus Schuster hatte die wunderbare Idee, das nach dem Torschreiber zu benennen, demjenigen, der nämlich notierte, wer in die Stadt kam und wer nicht. Und es gibt eine berühmte Geschichte aus dem 18. Jahrhundert, dass ein ganz armer, schmächtiger Jüngling Einlass begehrt hat und man ihn dann erst noch mal zu einer anderen Pforte schickte, wo gerade Juden passieren durften. Das war dann die Pforte am Rosenthaler, also wo heute der Rosenthaler Platz ist. Und die Legende will, dass er dann notiert hat, der Torschreiber: Heute haben 2 Schweine, eine Kuh und ein Jude dieses Tor passiert und sind nach Berlin gekommen, haben also Einlass begehrt und man hat sie hineingelassen, weil sie etwas Geld vorweisen konnten. Und dieser schmächtige Jüngling, das war Moses Mendelssohn. Moses Mendelssohn, der die Stadtgesellschaft so unvergleichlich bereichert hat, der große Impulse gegeben hat, nicht nur für das jüdische Leben in Berlin, sondern auch für das deutsche Leben und sich im regen Austausch mit zeitgenössischen Philosophen befunden hat. Das Schicksal eines Flüchtlings, der durch seine Schriften und mit seinen Schriften hier in Berlin und weit darüber hinaus gewirkt hat. Sie können gerade im Jüdischen Museum eine größere Ausstellung über ihn sehen und die Strahlkraft reicht weit über unsere Stadt hinaus. Und insofern haben wir uns damals überlegt, dass es eine gute Idee ist, das Torschreiberinnen-Stipendium auszuloben. Für 6 Monate werden Autorinnen und Autoren aus den die zu uns gekommen sind in Berlin, nach Berlin oder nach Deutschland, die geflohen sind, die einen prekären Status haben, manchmal auch einen noch nicht geklärten. Das ist etwas, was unsere Stiftung auch ziemlich beschäftigt dann, werden hierher eingeladen und sollen hier in Ruhe etwas schreiben. Nicht mehr als schreiben, das, was Autorinnen und Autoren eben wünschen. Und wir wollen ihnen diese Ruhe geben, die Möglichkeit, wir wollen ihnen auch etwas, die Infrastruktur der Stadt ermöglichen, den Austausch mit anderen Autorinnen und Autoren, mit den Berliner Verlagen, den Literaturhäusern, die es hier gibt, mit all dem, was es in Berlin gibt. Und Farah Abdi ist unsere dritte Stipendiatin. Wir hatten Rasha Hamal al-Khamani und jetzt Farah Abdi. Das erste Mal hatten wir eine syrische Autorin zu Gast, dann hatten wir einen arabischen Autor, Saudi-Arabien, zu Gast. Und heute mit Ihnen, Farah Abdi, eine Autorin aus Afrika und ein Transgender Woman. Auch das ist etwas Neues. Etwas Neues, weil ihre Autorenschaft von diesen beiden Elementen geprägt ist, ihrer Herkunft aus Afrika und ihrem Status als Transgender Woman. And again, a warm welcome. I know that you understood everything I told before. It was just some general remarks, and we are very happy to have you here. And I would love to give you the opportunity to present us a bit about your origin, the two countries from which you are coming, and the process of arriving to Berlin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Herr Spaß, for the introduction. And thank you for coming today for the reading. So I'm Farah Abdi. I'm originally from Somalia, but I grew up in Kenya, in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. And I left Kenya 10 years ago because of fear of persecution, because of my gender identity. But as a Somali national, I could not just book a ticket like a German and fly to where I wanted to go. I had to embark on a very dangerous and difficult journey across sub-Saharan Africa, the Sahara Desert, Libya before crossing the Mediterranean by boat, and arriving in Malta in 2012 on a boat. And I lived in Malta for 4 years, from end of 2012 when I arrived to 2016, when I moved to Berlin, where I'm living now for 5 years. So that's a little bit of my journey from home to here.
Yeah. And as I tried to explain, there are two sources of writing which led you write. It's the status of being a refugee. Never arrive is the text you will present to us today. And the second issue, we will talk a bit later about your status of gender. But just that's what we thought that might be interesting for you as well, to hear something of the texts which Farah is writing. It's a process of writing. It should become a book, and this book will be published. But right now, she is, as an author, writing a manuscript, and you are giving us some elements to read about, to hear about. Okay?
Definitely. Actually, the reading that I would be doing now is from my first book, which I already wrote and published in 2016 when I was living in Malta. The other book that I'm currently working on is something I'm working on. I'm still writing, so I'm not going to be sharing a text from that. But I'll be opening with, why did I start writing? You know, how did I get into writing? And this is a text from the book From Never Arrive, which is my first book that I wrote and was published in 2016 in Malta and 24 other countries around the world. And in the book, I explain I started writing at a very young age because writing gave me an outlet to be myself. As I grew older and understood the challenges that exist in this world, I asked myself a very important question. Who do I write for, and why do I write? It didn't take me long to figure out this question. I write for all readers. As a writer, I want everybody who loves reading to read my books. But my primary interest is in representing the complex but universal experience of refugees. I do this because the media representation of the global refugee community, especially refugees of color, is one that is carved out of derivative cliches. And by cliches, there's cliches of who a refugee is and what a refugee is. A refugee from the global south is either crammed with pirates, warlords, terrorists, passive women and girls whose entire existence seems to be nothing more than a footnote on the primitive dangers of female genital mutilation. So a woman who is weak and is from the third world and is from Africa and needs to be saved from female genital mutilation. I write because I want to give a long overdue voice to this community that I just described that has experienced a tremendous array of challenges, but who constantly face these challenges with the most wicked sense of humor, humility, and dignity. Because refugees, especially refugees of color, we know how we are perceived. You're uneducated, you're invading Europe, you're coming to destroy European civilization, you're coming here to take benefits, and if you're a Muslim, maybe you're a terrorist. But it is not portrayed that we are educated people, that we speak well, that we write well, that we are artists, that we are makeup artists, that we are doctors, that we are lawyers, that we are pilots, that we are politicians. That is not portrayed. And I started writing to tell those stories because those stories were not being told by the media and by society here that is against refugees.
But I mean, I would totally agree that the majority of our society thinks that colored people arriving here are not well educated, could not be doctors, could not have been seen in a university from inside. I mean, that's for granted. But what are your real experiences in Berlin? For now, you are living for some years in Berlin. You're quite familiar with the city. You are, as far as I understood, well connected. What are your experience? I mean, is there... Yeah, tell about your experiences.
Personally, I love living in Berlin, and I love living in Berlin because Berlin is from my experience, is not like other parts of Germany. There's a sense of diversity and a community within a community. When I arrived in Berlin 5 years ago, Berlin was the only city in Europe that had an LGBTQI exclusive shelter, an exclusive refugee shelter for LGBT refugees, for gay refugees, transgender refugees. It was the only city. And in that shelter, at first it was a refugee shelter where I arrived to apply for asylum. But in that shelter, I met my chosen family, the trans women who I will write about in the second book that I'm working on, who have become my family, who are part of my Berlin of today, you know? And also Berlin is very open when it comes to LGBT issues. Everywhere I walk, I see my community. I see people that look like me. I see people that have stories like mine, you know? And if you look enough in Berlin, you will be able to get the help that you want and the help that you need. So those are the good things. Like in Berlin is the first place because I lived in Malta for 4 years, and there I never felt like home. I just felt like this place that I arrived in and I had to stay in because that's the law. But in Berlin, I feel at home. But that doesn't mean Berlin is not predominantly white. That doesn't mean Berlin does not have racism. I have had people following me around in the supermarket thinking that just because I'm black, I'm going to steal. And this happens to President Obama, Oprah Winfrey. And in Kenya growing up, I used to see it on TV, like Oprah talking about it. I used to be like, oh my God, like how does this happen? And then when it happened to me in Berlin, I was like, oh my God, I'm having an Obama moment. He's following me. He thinks I'm going to steal. So yeah, there is those small nuances of racism living in this society.
But the second Obama moment will if you become our president.
I don't know the law in Germany. I think you have to be born here to be a chancellor, right?
No, I don't know if it's not. It's in the United States. It's like that. You can only become president when you are born there. But here not. So you have chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my goal. Yeah.
And they will make a German examen about
Yeah.
it before.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah,
you
yeah.
will.
I'll do it.
You will
Yeah,
do
I'll
it.
get
I mean,
to
I'm sure. So you
Yeah.
know this is.
But in general, yeah, I travel a lot for my work. This week I was in London for a migration conference. May I was in Cyprus, and every time I travel, I have it. When I was living in Malta, every time I would travel for work, and then I had to go back to Malta, I would feel a sense of depression. I would feel a sense of, oh my God, why am I in that island? Why am I even going back? That's because I faced so much discrimination there. And I was like, why did I even leave my mom? Why did I leave my family if I was going to leave one form of discrimination to come and live in another form of discrimination? But in Berlin, every time I'm flying back, I feel like, oh my God, I'm going home, you know. I have that sense of home, you know. It's home. It's Berlin. It's beautiful. But still, there are so many challenges that hopefully this new generation of migrants will be able to address and show people that we can all live together and coexist. Yeah.
And as far as I understood your work, you are also a kind of speaker of voice of the group of those who are arriving, transgender men or women, who are new coming here in Berlin, who did not just arrived, who are not settled like you know. This is what I like very much, your engagement for this group of people, you know, for a group of very often forgotten people.
Definitely. Actually, they are not forgotten. I work for an organization called Transgender Europe. It's the biggest transgender rights organization in Europe and Central Asia. It's based here in Berlin. And I'm an asylum and I work in asylum policy on EU level, but I also work in communications because I'm a communication specialist. I studied communication in university in Malta, but I became a communication specialist before even studying communication because I had to navigate the world as a black trans Muslim woman. And I don't know if you know the word intersectionality. It's intersectionality is when you have different identities that are seen as a minority that meet together and you face discrimination because of those identities. So normally maybe a cis black woman would face discrimination because she's a woman and because she's black. Or the best thing to be in the world is a cis white man, head of patriarchy. But because of intersectional discrimination, our community, the trans community, faces a lot of issues, whether you are trans and German or you're trans and a migrant. Maybe if you're trans and German, you will not face racism or xenophobia, but transphobia is very much alive in society, and especially against trans women. There's something now going on called the anti-gender movement, whereby states like EU states that are supposed to be upholding democracy and human rights, like Hungary and Poland and the Czech Republic, are coming out against trans rights, especially trans women, and pitting women against trans women and saying trans women are going to use your bathrooms and rape you. There's this agenda of changing children to become trans. So being a trans woman in today's Europe is a very difficult thing, and my organization is fighting to show that trans women are women, and that should not even be a debate, and our lives matter. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about the book which you are writing right now, and giving us an impression about this book?
So the book that I'm working, because this book that I wrote that was published in 2016 was about my journey coming from Kenya through the desert, and like it was my journey. It was 200 pages of my journey and the journey of people like me. And then I finished that book and I thought I would never write another book again because that story was told. But when I came to Berlin and I was living in this LGBTQI plus shelter, I met so many people who had stories like mine, so similar but also different. Women from Malaysia, trans women from Turkey, trans women from South Africa, trans women from Serbia, who had very different backgrounds, nationalities, cultures, but had all left their countries because of discrimination and because of persecution. And we all found each other in this foreign country, foreign city, sharing a home, and stuck together there for 1 year, 2 years, depending on if you get asylum or not. And at first it was like, okay, I'm just here, I'm going to focus on my life and my asylum and do my things. But then the more you live there, you start talking to the people. As I said, those people became my family. Today, if something happens to me, they are my family. And I was like, these stories need to be told because these are the stories that are missing in the media, you know? People did not just wake up. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to leave my mom, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to leave everything and go to Europe. Like, why would people do that, you know? Everybody leaves because there's a problem behind it, you know? Why would you leave your family and everything that you have ever known to go to a foreign land that you never even saw, you know, where you don't speak the language, and then every single day people are telling you you don't belong there, you know? So that's why I wanted to write this second book, because I was like, these stories need to be told. These women left for a reason. These women belong in German society. These women add to German society because now they're working, they're paying taxes, they are part of German, they're doing, some of them are makeup artists, they're doing German weddings. They add to society, and it's very, it's lunatic whenever you hear the migration debate, and I hope those stories are going to speak for themselves. Yeah. And I think continuing with the theme is one of the things that I wrote in the book, in Never Arrive, the one that was published, is the night that I made the decision to leave, I had a dream whereby I woke up before somebody would kill me, but I could still feel the presence of the chilling knife around my throat, digging deeper into me, cold blade against warm skin, ready to pierce. My breathing was heavy and getting heavier. I was sweating profusely. I gasped. I woke up. I'm dazed. I'm scared. I knew this could happen for real if people knew I was transgender. I had contemplated leaving in 2008, but I was too young. I was only 12 years old. 4 years later, nothing had changed. I was still in the closet, afraid to come out. So I was 16 when I had this dream. And
being in the closet, do you understand what
being in the closet means hiding, like not, because I discovered my trans identity when I was 5 years old, and I didn't discover it. My teacher discovered it. They called my mom and they told, there's something wrong with your child. Instead of playing with boys during break time, he's playing with girls. So this is not acceptable. You need to talk to your child. And at 5 in 2000, I went back home from kindergarten, and my mom was screaming at me, and I was like, what did I do? And then that was the first time that I realized, oh, so there's a problem. And I started building a wall around myself, because I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to speak feminine, to sit feminine. I always thought I was a girl until 5, so now I'm being told I'm not. So I need to act differently because I don't want to bring shame to my family, to my mom, to my culture, to school, to my society. And I was in hiding until I left when I was 16. From 5 to 16, I was living a lie, like pretending to be somebody. And that's why a lot of LGBT people, their childhood is stolen, because we don't remember being even children, because you have to be an actor, you have to transform So being in the closet, that's what it means. Hiding and not showing your true self every single day. And I was tired of that. At 12, I wanted to kill myself or leave. And I don't even remember being a child and a lot of people in my community are like that. We don't remember being children because from a very young age, you discover, oh, there's a problem here. I have to start hiding. And you become an adult very quickly. Very quickly. Yeah, and then there was the journey. After 4 years of dreams and plans, my day of departure finally arrived. It was the 26th of February 2012, a Sunday, and I was 16 years old. I thought that I had prepared myself enough for this day, but a shiver of fear ran down my spine, and the hair at the back of my neck prickled in the morning. I was about to embark on a very dangerous journey. I was tired of living in hiding because of a different gender identity. I wanted to express myself freely. I didn't want to waste my life dancing to someone else's tune, like my mom. Like, I don't want to become a doctor. I don't want to live your life. I want to be myself. The mere thought of leaving everything that I had known up until then, just because of my gender identity, was killing me. I was bidding my beloved mother, brother, cousins, aunts, and friends farewell. This is not fair, I kept thinking. This journey would teach me the sad reality in the world, that fairness is a word that only exists in the dictionary. My emotions were kicking in. I was scared because I didn't know what to expect. This was the first time I was traveling alone and out of my comfort zone into dangerous destinations. I was sad because I was leaving behind the woman who had given her all to give me and my brother the best, the woman who had loved me unconditionally, the woman who had done everything in her power to shield me from the cruel world that I was about to encounter. It broke my heart to see her in pain because her baby was leaving. Most mothers cry when their children leave for a holiday or to go to boarding school. Mine had to live with the fact that I was heading directly into dangerous territories, and deep inside, she had to come to terms with the possibility of maybe never seeing me again. Because there's a very interesting dynamic. Every time I tell my story or I speak about my book or my family not accepting me, there's this perception that, oh, then your family must be horrible. That's what I also thought for a long time until I had therapy, until I came to understand my mother. My mother was a very powerful woman. She never went to school. She doesn't know how to read and write. She was married off to an old man, my dad, because that's the tradition and that's the culture. She had 2 children, me and my brother, and she made sure that we were very educated. That's why I'm able to write today, to speak, to work, to do anything. She made sure that we were very protected. But this woman who loved me unconditionally also came from a culture that was so closed. And there's one thing that she always knew, that this is the religion, this is the culture, and these are the things that you're supposed to follow. And anything that contradicted that contradicted her beliefs. So it's not that she didn't want to accept me because she didn't love me. It's because she was taught so many things, and these things had become law in her head, that it was difficult for her to come to terms with that. And now she has, after all these years of me coming out and speaking, and we have we speak almost every single day. And the belief and the beauty that my mom brought me up in is what gives me the courage to move on with life every single day. It's what gives people like me the courage to say no to racism. Like, how can you even dare wake up one morning and say that you're better than me? My mom taught me I was the best human being in this world, that me and my brother were amazing. You cannot discriminate me. Oh, so you're German, you're white, so what? You're not going to discriminate me? Absolutely not. So that is the culture and that is the background that I come from. And in a way, even her not accepting me growing up made me stronger, because she equipped so many other sides of my identity. She educated me. She made me so strong. She loved me so much, to a point whereby I cannot put up with nonsense when I see it, because I'm like, no, my mom would not put up with this. Why should I? My grandma would not put up with this. Why should I?
What did happen to your mother?
What happened to her? Now, she still lives in Kenya. My dad fortunately died, so she's free and she's living a happy, healthy life. Yeah.
Okay.
And we are very close. And
your grandmother?
my grandma unfortunately passed away
Okay.
12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and that's why I always say, like, I'm a trans woman of color, and women, whenever I experience bigotry or racism from society, when it comes from a man, I'm not even shocked. I'm like, okay, he doesn't know any better. But when it comes, because I was brought up by powerful women, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, very strong, powerful Somali women. And even the day when I was leaving, my mom said a prayer. She said, I'm releasing you from my hands because you're only 16 to the hands of powerful women of the world.
Yeah. So you made the best decision becoming a woman, living as a woman.
Exactly. And the woman that I am today is because of my mom and other women who fed into. Yeah.
That's what I learned by your book also. And but Farah, let us also come to the second project, the project you are writing now. That's the sense of our fellowship, of our stipend, that we would allow you and other writers to have time finally to write, and that you don't have to take care of working, or that you can interrupt your daily work and should interrupt your daily work to write. So let us talk a bit about this project, and then you are welcome to join us with questions.
Definitely. No, actually that project is super interesting because when I saw it last year, and when I was applying, I was like, because Berlin is very cultural, as I said, and artistic, and having such opportunities is a good thing because, as you said, it alleviates. My English is a bit too big sometimes. I speak better English than my own mother tongue. Like, English is my first language, so if I'm using too big words, just tell me. Alleviate means it takes away your mind from the stress of working and making a living when you have the opportunity to be able to sit down and write and just focus on your art. And that has been very good for the last 6 months. I still work a lot because I come from a culture and a community where hard work is important and it's non-negotiable.
It should be here too.
My mom always used to tell me, like, you will not be the most beautiful person in the room, you will not be the smartest person in the room, you will not be the expert in the room, but as long as you're the most hardworking person in the room, everything is going to be fine. So you can outwork the smartest person in the room and you will still end up to be number one. That's what my mom. So hard work is important, but also hard work that comes with balance of not thinking about a living and having the opportunity to access such funds and write, just write, like that's super, super important. And I'm happy that there's such opportunities to get such support. Yeah.
And I mean, can you communicate with your family, with your mom and with your brother? Can you communicate daily? I mean, is that possible?
With my brother, I don't talk to him anymore because he's transphobic, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm so happy and I don't have time for toxic people. Okay. But with my mom, yeah, every single day we talk. There's WhatsApp. We don't live in the Stone Ages anymore, luckily. There's Telegram, WhatsApp, and all that. So
it's a new way of communication for those who have
been displaced.
For refugees, now they can at least communicate.
Exactly. Yesterday I was at Heathrow Airport in the morning, talking to my mom.
But you couldn't return. I mean, this is...
First of all, I cannot, at the moment, I cannot return legally because I would lose my asylum. So legally, I'm not allowed to return until I get German citizenship. But even if I get German citizenship, I have to think, do I want to go back? There's still, because my mom now accepts me, but still there's a huge part of my family that don't, which I don't. My mom is just the most important person. The others I don't care about. But even if I don't care about them, they pose a challenge. So maybe my life would be threatened if I go there and somebody can just stab me, which is crazy, but it happens.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
know,
world
I
we
know.
live in. So, and that's the sad thing, and that's what I tell the Germans all the time. Like, please, whenever you see LGBT refugees, treat them differently, because other refugees, once it becomes Syria becomes safe, Ukraine becomes safe, they will go back maybe, but we can never go back as trans
Syria becomes
refugees. When Syria becomes safe in the
it's
future,
also very homophobic.
no, LGBT refugees will not be able to go back.
No, never.
But other refugees who are not LGBT will maybe one
I
day.
have a lot of doubts,
Yeah.
but that could time. I mean, for Ukrainian, I would agree. I mean, that's for sure that they would go back, and most people would go back. I mean,
most refugees who are not LGBT would go back because there's no barrier there. But if you are gay or lesbian or transsexual, no.
Yeah,
it's
and that
hard.
was the main reason for you to leave the country.
Yeah.
I mean, this you have to take into account that it was not the political reason was not of being persecuted, but of being persecuted because of an own decision of the proper gender or love life, or call it however. I think this is very interesting, and this we should keep in mind, because we are not, as far as I see, we are not aware enough about that here in Germany. Because we have for LGBTQ we have a normal life, or I mean it's a development. It was not always like that. It had been in Berlin, and I would leisurely also in each part in Germany. It should be, but we had attacks in Dresden. We had this stabbing attack for 2 men, and 1 died last October. I mean, the situation is stable. I mean, I would compare it to other conditions, and we have to keep in mind that in Russia and also in the Ukraine is very homophobic countries.
It depends also in the Ukraine where you are.
Where, yeah.
In Kiev, perhaps not, but as soon as you're in the village, it's not.
Also in,
Yeah.
So
And
please join us in question or with questions. Please, otherwise continue and then.
No, the last point that I wanted to make was, I tell the Germans that we are stuck together. Like LGBT refugees and Germans, we are stuck. We are here. Like we are stuck in the hip. I know I will die in Berlin.
Aha, okay.
So there's no going back. No, a long life with my Viking husband in the future. When I meet Thor from Sweden with blonde hair and blue eyes. Yeah.
Okay.
I still have places to go and things to see. So not soon, but yeah, Berlin would forever be our home as LGBT refugees. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bitte, please.
I'm very happy that the Liebermann Haus and the foundation made you an official artist and giving you the possibility of writing and using the time without any financial problems at the moment. So I was looking forward to your reading. I'm sorry we were a bit late.
No problem.
I'm very happy that.
Wenn Sie noch mal ganz kurz zusammenfassen, ganz kurz.
I just wanted to say that I'm very happy that you are here and that the foundation, the Brandenburg Gate Foundation, gave you this possibility, or still gives you the possibility to be here. So I was looking forward to your reading and for the discussion, and I hope I'll perhaps see you next week on the 20th and 21st, when there is a symposium about migration in the evangelical
Academy.
Stiftung.
Foundation
as well, yeah. So talk to you later on.
Definitely.
Thank
I'll
you very
give you
much.
my card, yeah.
Ich gebe Ihnen, wenn Sie eine Frage haben, das ist, glaube ich, es wird aufgenommen, nicht? Und darum sollten Sie in das Mikrofon sprechen. Na, eine Frage? Bitte.
Definitely. Now that I'm living in Germany, I'm so ashamed that 5 years later I don't speak good German because of my English. My English puts me in problems because in Berlin I can safely exist and the organization where I work also, they speak English is their official language. But to get my citizenship, I have to learn it, and that's my project and my goal. And yeah, but now that Germany is my home, I would love to be able to like publish my second book and books in German, to be able to communicate with the German audience, and also once I'm able to speak fluent German, because I met President Macron, I've traveled the world with this book, I met the Queen of England, for example. So I went from a boat to meeting world leaders, and it would be nice to meet the leaders of my new country and go to the Bundestag and speak on TV and show them how fabulous trans people are. Yeah, but I'd
So
be
you
able to
have a
do that
program.
in German.
You have a certain program, no?
I'm always dreaming. That's what my mom taught me. Dream, girl. Yeah.
At least it's close.
Yeah. So yeah, language is super important because it's the mode of communication, and there needs to be a because once people meet you, even the racist people, they're like, oh, once you communicate and they see your humanity, they're like, oh, so you're just like me.
But I have to say that this is because of the work with the refugees, I found out that the language problem is still a very current problem. I mean, it's a heavy problem which we have to solve together, you know.
Definitely.
Because we have to expect that the refugees are learning German.
Yeah. And it takes time.
Yeah. Some of them are fluent. I mean, it's not like that.
I don't have.
We will help you. We will help you.
I don't have the language gene. I'm not talented in languages. Yeah. So
yes, and you have
Germany
a
has
perfect
to be patient.
English. You have but if you don't have
but
this
English because I grew up with it, you know.
Yeah, I know. But
I just take it for granted because I wish I was born in Germany. And
bitte.
Germany.
Okay. Dann machen Sie das. Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you for a very inspiring lecture. Really
Nehmen Sie doch ruhig die Maske ab.
very interesting. Can you tell us something about your writing process? I don't know. Do you make a pot of tea, or are you in the morning or the evening? And speaking of languages, in what language do you write?
Yeah. So I write in English. Yeah, that's my main language of writing. And when I was writing my first book, when I was living in Malta, I started the writing process in 2014, 2015. And I would clean my apartment, take a shower, make tea, sit, and I wrote my first book on my phone. I didn't have a laptop. Yeah, at the time. I wrote the whole book on my phone. I still write on my phone because I don't like the laptop. It's too... But then I would take a shower, prepare myself, make a cup of tea, sit down and say, okay, I'm writing now, and nothing. And then the next day I would be on the bus, going to an appointment, I'm late somewhere, and I would write a whole chapter in the bus. So the phone was so convenient like that. So the creative process for me works not in a scheduled way. It just comes when it comes. Then I'm like, okay, let me pull out my phone and start writing. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my God, I wrote this waiting for a doctor or running somewhere. But I barely write in an organized structure. It doesn't come to me. Yeah.
So, noch eine Frage.
I would like to ask you, what inspires you most of all? Because actually I'm a singer, and before I'm starting to record my songs, I'm trying to listen something or watching something which will inspire me. And what actually inspires you before you start writing your books?
I think the thing that inspires me the most is that sometimes most of the time I'm a dreamer. Like I believe in dreams and I believe in the universe, and I'm like, okay, if you put it out there, if I say it 1,000,000 times that I want to get married to a Swedish guy with blonde hair and blue, it's gonna come true. you know. So I say it, and that is the inspiration that I have. And also my grandma and my mom, you know, I always think about them. I have their pictures in the book. Because they inspire me, they give me so much hope and foundation. So thinking about my mother inspires me a lot, and also dreaming and knowing that tomorrow is going to be better than today. Yeah. Even when you're having a bad day, you're like, oh my God, but anxiety, depression, but tomorrow is going to be fine. Yeah.
I see. Thanks a lot.
I have to excuse myself, my English is very bad. And so I just want to ask, what about, do you still do your fashion drawings?
Do I still do my fashion?
Fashion drawings?
Fashion choice?
Drawings which are mentioned here in the
Yeah, the fashion.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love you are dressed very nicely. I love fashion, and fashion also is another thing that gave me hope and inspired growing up, like watching Naomi Campbell and be like, oh my God, she's walking, Tyra Banks, you know, like these women. I was like, Jesus, and now Kim Kardashian. I love the Kardashians. So yes, fashion is very much a big part of my life.
But you don't do drawings?
No. I'm not a designer.
And you have no contact with the fashion scene in Berlin?
No.
Okay.
But I would love to.
But
now the body is still in the mechanic, like I'm transitioning.
Okay.
It's like a car in the mechanic. So once the construction is finished, you will see me around Berlin in different fashion scenes.
And I just want to ask, your novel Never Arrive was published in London?
No, in Malta. I was living in Malta at the time.
In Malta?
Yeah.
And it's only in English, it's not translated?
No, not yet.
And your novel you are writing now?
Is in English, and hopefully it's going to be translated into German.
And has the title?
I still don't have a title.
It's no title yet?
Yeah. Titles are also very, like Never Arrive was not supposed to be a title. It was in the book.
Yeah.
I was talking about how my mom used to tell my brother and I to never ever arrive. Like arriving to her means when you find a comfort zone and you say, okay, I found a little job in the office and I'm a secretary now and I arrived and I'm happy. I have a husband and children and a little house and a little car. My mom did not want, she would beat the hell out of me if I speak like that. She does not want you to arrive. Aim for a better life every single day. Ask yourself, how can I go up? How can I move from being the secretary to the CEO of this company? You know? So that's what I was talking about. And the editor of the book was like, oh my God, you are on a journey. You don't want to live in Malta anymore. You want to move on. So why not name the book Never Arrive?
So you need a
the
person.
title, not the person, but the chemistry has to come once the product is finished. Yeah.
You need a person to say you the phrase.
To phrase it. The first book, Never Arrive, I wanted to name it Eiffel Tower by the Sea. Because when I was on the boat in the Mediterranean, 77 people on a tiny boat, we don't know if we are going to drown or die or arrive. Instead of thinking about that, I was in the boat thinking about when I go to Champs-Élysées and when I go to the Eiffel Tower and when I see Chanel and Prada, and I was like, you can die now. What are you thinking about? So I was thinking of the Eiffel Tower on the sea.
And did you ever go to Paris?
And I met Macron there. So I just didn't go to Paris, and I went to meet the president of France. Yeah.
Might be very helpful not to have a title, because if you have a title, you are fixed on this title.
Yeah.
You know,
The title will come from the book.
it comes. And if it's the last thing which comes, you know, that's
On Never Arrive, it was the last thing that came.
Okay. So we are waiting for this, but probably to close up, you will give us a short impression of your untitled last current project book.
The impression is going to be fierce, fabulous trans women of color living in Berlin, dating, working, surviving, finding apartments, like existing, the community, the pain, sharing. How do we celebrate Christmas? Do we come together? How do we help? 2 years ago, I went through a horrible breakup. I was with this German guy for 4 years. And the breakup was so horrible that it was the first time since I arrived that I was thinking of suicide again. But my community picked me up. So that's going to be in the book. How do we pick each other up when we are down and depressed and going through difficult times? So it's going to be full of that. Yeah, and also fun, going to the club. We were clubbing the first year. We arrived in Berlin. We used to go back to the Heim at 8 in the morning every weekend, you know. So clubbing, having fun, painting our hair pink and going to the U-Bahn and the S-Bahn. Berlin is very free, yeah. And it's going to be that crazy, funny, strong, love, everything, yeah.
Bitte, noch eine Frage. Dort.
Perhaps I missed the part because we were late, but how did you come to know that Berlin will be this magic place for you? Did some others told you about it? Come to Berlin, there it is easier for you. There is this special place where you can hide and then go on.
Why not London?
For instance.
Yeah,
for
why not
instance,
London,
yeah.
for instance? Actually, that is also going to be in the book, and it's a bit of a long story. I left Malta. I was there for 4 years, and the last 2 years I was there, I was dreaming of going to Iceland. For 2 years, I was working to go to I saved, packed my bags, bought my ticket. I'm going to meet my Icelandic Thor, live in Iceland in the middle of nowhere, be happy for the rest of my life. And then I went to Iceland from Malta in December 2016. And within 7 days, I knew, no, this is not the place for me. It's too cold. It's too isolating. There's no partying going on.
Oh, yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot.
Yeah, but not like Berlin, you know.
Much more. Believe me, Iceland is a fantastic country. Yeah.
I still love Iceland. Yeah.
You missed it.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you have to get introduced.
no.
It's a fantastic place.
I still, but after 7 days, I was like, no, I'm going to Stockholm. So yeah,
Stockholm.
and I actually the friend who bought me the ticket is here. I bought a ticket. This story is so unbelievable. If there was no people who are there, it sounds crazy. So I was in Reykjavik in the morning, bought a ticket to go to Stockholm, arrived in Stockholm thinking I'm going to apply for asylum there, went to the police officers at Arlanda airport, gave them my documents, and then I was like, no, I don't want to stay in Stockholm. Like my gut was telling me, I also have a gut that my mom taught me to follow. I was like, no, okay, it's not Stockholm. And then I was like, what's wrong with you? Like you're in Iceland in the morning, now you're in Stockholm. You don't want to apply in Stockholm. And then I said, okay, let me go to McDonald's, let me eat something, let me calm down. And then I said Berlin. I had never been to Berlin. I had never thought of living in Germany. And I went to buy a ticket at Arlanda airport to Berlin. And then they were like, we don't have a direct flight anymore today. We only have an Iberia flight through Madrid. So in the morning I was in Iceland and then Stockholm and then Madrid. And then I landed in Berlin at midnight. And I applied for asylum at Tegel airport. They were like, yeah, we know that every plane from Madrid brings refugees because that's where refugees are from. I was like, no, girl, I was in Iceland this morning. Really, show me your ticket. And I showed them my ticket. And then I found Berlin.
Yeah.
And the week, that was a Saturday. The Saturday after, I was in Berghain. A mess.
So you see how colorful could be the life
Yeah.
of refugees, but the leaving part is never.
Even the night that I
colorful.
arrived at Tegel,
Yeah.
once they took my fingerprints and everything,
Yeah.
they told me, at 4 in the morning. I arrived at around midnight, and until 4 in the morning, they were taking my details, fingerprints, everything. At 4 in the morning, they were like, okay, we take you to Tempelhof. I was like, what's that? They said it's a big camp. I said, no, I'm not going to a big camp. I read on the internet that Berlin has an LGBT camp. I want to go there. And they called the Heim, and it's a Saturday. Everybody's at the club, you know. They're not going to pick up. Even the social workers are LGBT. They're in the club. I didn't know that. I would come to find that out. And then the police officers were like, no, we have to take you to Tempelhof. And I said, no, I have money. I will take a hotel. And they were like, really? How much money do you have? Because they are supposed to take money from. If you have more than 200 euros, legally they're supposed to. And I knew that also. I didn't have cash. I told them I have a card. I don't have cash. And they were like, okay. So they called a taxi for me. And the taxi was supposed to take me to a hotel, a random hotel in Berlin. And we couldn't understand each other because I didn't know a word of German. And the taxi driver got lost. And he dropped me on the door of Kit Kat, one of the clubs. And this naked guy came out at 5 in the morning, naked, smoking a cigarette. And I'm here with my bags, and I was like, he looks like my community. Excuse me, sir, I am a bit lost. Can you call a taxi for me? And he was calling me the taxi like it's normal. I was like, I am in my city. I knew from the first night that this is my city. I was like, yes, is this what happens here? Okay. This is the way I've been looking for all my life.
As a foundation are learning that we're inviting you for the scholarship means to learn about the club life of Berlin. I mean, my colleagues are quite familiar, but I'm not, so very interesting. But
no, people don't sleep.
As I may really point out, the parting point for each of you who is arriving here is not that, let's say, not that colorful, not that gay.
Of course.
It's gay, but not, you know what I mean. It's not that silly and not so funny as the club life could be in Berlin. And also the club life in Berlin, we have to take into account during the 2 past years had been really a breakdown also for them. And we hope that it will recover. And that you will write for us a book about the richness of cultural life in Berlin, of a friendly city, as I hope, but also of the problematic sides and the challenges which we have to face here in Berlin as well, as everywhere in the world. And we are talking here in a moment which is not that funny. We have to take into account, we all know it. And hopefully we are coming and arriving and seeing better times, you know.
Exactly. The funniness also comes from, because when your life is so dark and depressing, you have to find funny moments that make you laugh. And even the stories that I will write in the second book, I don't want German society to see us as victims because of what we went through. We are survivors. We go through hell every day. Every day, there can be a reason for me to be sad, but I choose not to most of the time. I have my sad days, but most of the time, yes, the funniness is part of the vibrancy. You know, sometimes we make fun of our bodies, sometimes we make fun of our color, sometimes we make fun in my community. So yeah, everything is funny. From even the war, sometimes we make fun of the war, like in my country, you know, Somalis make fun of the war because that's all we know, you know. So yeah, it's not all funny, but the funny has to be there to make things lighter, because we need humor in life. Yeah.
Ja, meine Damen und Herren, dann ist unsere Stunde des Gesprächs mit Farah Abdi vorüber, ans Ende gelangt. Vielen Dank, Farah Abdi. Das große Versprechen, dass wir das nächste Gespräch machen wir nur noch auf Deutsch. Und Sie lesen dann auch auf Deutsch für uns. Sie haben einen Einblick bekommen. Wir haben dieses Stipendium, das Torschreiberinnen-Stipendium, ausgelobt für Autorinnen und Autoren, die auf der Flucht sind, die hier Heimat suchen. Diese Heimat ist vielleicht für manche von uns fremd, neu, aber es soll ihnen auch ermöglichen, darüber zu berichten, über ihre Herkunft. Wir haben das etwas getan, auch in Erinnerung an all jene, die diese Möglichkeit nicht hatten. Das muss man wirklich immer wieder sagen. Das Max-Liebermann-Haus hat auch das Liebermann-Haus hat eine historische Aufgabe darin, nämlich die Aufgabe, an diejenigen zu erinnern, deren Leben zerstört wurde, die nicht ein rettendes Ufer erreicht haben. Und umso dankbarer sind wir, dass Sie heute heiter und lustig uns etwas über Ihr Leben erzählt haben hier in Berlin. So soll es weitergehen. Und jetzt wünsche ich Ihnen noch einen schönen Nachmittag und einen guten Sonnabend, meine Damen und Herren.